1 2 microphone check up. We're back here today again. It's just me, myself, and I right now. The show is called Chili Chill and Friends. Um, I am here, and myself and me, basically myself and me are my friends, and here's I, Chili Chill. So we're gonna talk about art, and we're gonna talk about life. It's a beautiful day. Feels like summer. This winter actually felt like summer as well. And if you're like me, Chile, you always have Jamaica in your heart. And it's always nice and warm in Jamaica. So here we go. Because, you know, when it's nice and warm and it's summertime, it's your pores open up, your heart opens up, and sure it's better to have a nice and flaming heart than a cold heart. Cause mm, cold-hearted people, they're okay, but I always find them uh, to be not very happy. They're always finding things wrong with the world, always looking at problems with people. I mean, it's okay to see something that's not accurate. It's okay to see a problem with this or that. Oh, like let's say, mm, I look at my hand and I say, "Oh, I got 6 fingers." Well, somebody says, "Excuse me, Chili, but you got 5 fingers." And I'm like, "Oh, gee, wait, yeah, you're right. Thanks. I do got 5 fingers." And somebody, but you do it. People would do it out of goodness of their heart. They would want me to be correct. Maybe they don't want me to be mistaken. But a cold-hearted person would probably look at me and say, "You know what? You dumbass. You stupid. Why you say 6 fingers? You got 5. You're not good." And I'd be like, "Oh, thanks for making me feel like Dookie." I can't say the other word up here. Well, I can, but I'd rather not. I was asked by Xav not to use bad words, and even though I don't think that the SH word is a bad word, um, I'm gonna try not to use it. Now, when it comes to Rabbi, he can use anything he wants because he's Rabbi. I am not. I'm Mr. Chill. I try to chill, and if somebody asks me um, not to do something, I'll listen. Or mm, I do, I do believe that rules exist there, not necessarily to be broken, but to be bent. So, and often when I go to different things like events or whatever, I'm given a set of rules, and of course, with the set of rules, there comes there there comes a certain set of unwritten rules. Like things that we're all supposed to just understand. Like stuff that's written between the lines. And well, I'm just an ignorant fool, a dirty dog. I don't know how to read what's written between the lines. So I try to push my limits to the most. And sometimes I get away. And sometimes I get away for quite a long time. And then somebody would say, "Oh, you know what, Chili? You can't do that." And I would say something like, um, well, if I can't do something, you should put it in the rule book, because it's not in the rule book. And how am I supposed to know? Like, for example, I went to the Vipassana retreat at Rockford, Illinois, and one of the rules is not to do any other practices, any other meditations. And I was like, okay, well, to me, that means that when I go up there, I don't practice any mantras or something like that. And I just do what they tell me to do. Because their reason is that if you're gonna do something, you gotta do it. You gotta give it a fair chance, you know? Because if you're gonna do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, you get to miss the essential point, essential point, essential part of this whole thing. And I, I've been meditating for a while, and when I meditate, I just like to sit. Well, I do a lot of things, but my favorite thing to do is to sit with my straight back and my tongue touching my upper palate behind my teeth. It's usually there anyways, but uh, it is recommended to put it there. And as I understand it, going to Tai Chi Chuan School of Milwaukee, actually, Tai Chi Chuan Center of Milwaukee. But it is a school. It's not just a center. Center it may be as well, but every time I go there, I go to school, you know? I go to learn, to study, and the most amazing thing is that I've been going there for 4 or 5 years already, and it's the same lesson. it's it's the same form basically. Usually, well, there's a lot to it, and there's more than just one form, because we have the Badwa Jins and the Qigongs, and then of course there's push hands, but the main objective is the study of the Yang short form, which is uh, which was invented by Grandmaster Chingman Ching. And speaking of Grandmasters, a Grandmaster Ben Lo is coming to town this weekend. He is a very robust and young 80 something man. You know, he's small, he's Chinese, he he's about 130 pounds, 120, I don't know, he's small. But I went to see him a couple of years back, and he would stand there uh, and find the biggest guy in the room and say, "Okay, you push me," and he would nobody could push him, and he would say, "Okay, now I push you," and he would push anybody without barely touching the person. That's what Tai Chi Chuan is. Tai Chi is called the Grand Ultimate, basically, and translated in into English. Or some translations I've heard would go as the grounding of energy. I don't know. It's very energetic, because there's the yin and there's the yang, and there's a positive and negative, and they're all energy. Um, Go to school. Tai Chi Chuan Center of Milwaukee. Michael, the teacher, he talks all about it. Class is about 2 hours long, and if you go to school, you can go up to, I think, 10 classes a week. So for $40 a month, that's like, see, that's like $1 a class. Yeah, it's pretty cheap. It's very cheap. It's the cheapest because best things are free, or sometimes they're almost free. I mean, the best things are free, or almost free. Like this weekend, uh, my one of my favorite Buddhist teachers is coming to town. Her name is Lama Lina. I saw her last week and she gave me this really special practice. But she's coming to Shambhala, center of Milwaukee. Don't go onto Shambhala webpage. You won't find any information on her up there. Um, she's coming to Shambhala because the people who invited her rented the space from Shambhala Center. She is not a part of them. She is, as I understand it, she's not a part of anything. Her talking about herself is just she's just a yogini that teaches people who want to be taught. She doesn't have a center. She doesn't belong to any group. She's just a free spirit, and she's always been there that way. And her teacher, he's the same way. He lives in a cave in Tsopema in northern India. Tsopema is a magical place. I haven't been there yet, but the story about the place is that in about 7th century or so, there was this yogi guy. He was highly accomplished. He studied under the best teachers of his time, and when it comes to yoga and Eastern spirituality, we have people living really long time. So apparently the guy was like, when the guy was about 1,000 years old or something like that, maybe, yeah, or like maybe 1,500 years old, he's like an immortal person. Because apparently he went and meditated in this special graveyard, and a goddess appeared to him because she was like also living in this graveyard, and she came to him and she would teach him things, and she taught him how to get his skin to be impenetrable. So he had like an adamantium skin, and he also got immortality. So he was an immortal, impenetrable being that cannot be killed. He could fly and move himself across the world in an instant and all that stuff. So this guy, he was he went to meditate up there in the Tsopema region. He lived in a cave and he did his thing, and the princess of this kingdom, because everything was a kingdom, one kingdom or another. So this princess, the king's daughter, she heard about this rugged guy who's living in a cave, but nobody really knew who he was. They just knew that he was this yog that lives in a cave, and he did some tantric stuff, and he was accomplished, realized being. So she wanted to learn from him. So this little girl, she was a pretty young lady. She had an adventurous spirit. She decides to get away from the castle and go study with him. So she ran away. She runs away and goes into this fella's. His name was Padma. Padma Sabhava. That's what people call him. I'm sure people call him a whole bunch of names. I don't know what she called him. She probably called him teacher. But she came to his cave and says, teach me. I'm the princess. I'm smart. I can learn a lot if you just teach me. And he says, yeah, I can teach you a thing or two. You seem to have a good mind, and I think she also had what's called a crook, like webbed fingers. Not exactly what it means, but that's what the text say. She had the webbed fingers. I guess she maybe was. To me, I think that means that you know how people can bend their fingers backwards and stuff like that, the double jointed. So she might have been double jointed. So he started teaching her, and he's like a tantric guru, and they were um, they were doing this yab yam thing. Yab yam means father mother. It's like sex. So they became kind of like lovers, you know. So here she is making love with Guru Rinpoche, Padmasambhava, and the king, that's his daughter. He hears about her living with this rugged yogi in a cave, having sex with him every day. I don't know, all day. I don't know what they did. They did a whole lot of things. Um, so he sent his guards, like a whole army of them, and they barge into the cave and they get both of them and bring him to the king. And king is like, okay, you're no good. uh, Princess, her name was Mandarava, you come with me, you yogi, you get burned. And she was like, no, if he gets burned, I will get burned with him. I don't want to go to you. You are like you're an angry person. You are a jealous person. You don't wish what's good for me. This is my teacher. This is my guru. He has showed me real meaning of love. He has showed me how to open my heart. He has showed me how to transcend this world. He showed me that there's a bigger world than this material thing that we live in. He showed me my spirit. I don't want to leave him. And the king is like, well, I renounce you. You are not my daughter anymore. So you want to be with your lover boy? You both get burned. So he tied her and him to a stake and put a whole bunch of wood up there and let them burn. So they were burning and burning and burning. They burned for one day and they burned for a second day. And they kept burning for a third day and fourth and fifth. And people was like, wow, this is really supernatural. This is not right. These guys, these people, they're just burning and burning and burning and they're not getting burnt. So 10th day came and they were still burning. And then this guru Padmasambhava, he says, all right, enough. I showed you what I can do. Now you're gonna really see my power. And then this whole place where they were burning, he snapped his fingers and it turned into a lake. It turned into a lake and nothing, and they were just standing beside the lake, him and Mandarava. And King was like, oh man, I am so stupid. I am so sorry. You are like the man. I bow to you. Please take half of my kingdom. Because, he's a king. He can give up his whole kingdom. Yeah, well, kings gotta be a little greedy. Please take my half my kingdom. Take my Mandarava as your wife. And just please forgive me. But Guru, he says, I don't need your kingdom. What I need kingdom for? I'm a free person, man. If I have a kingdom, I'll have to do all those mathematics. I'll have to do it. I have to take care of the people, and it's like a headache. I don't want your kingdom. Thanks, but no thanks. You keep your kingdom, but your daughter, well, thank you for giving her to me, but she's not really yours to give. She's her own person, and she already came to me before you gave her, and so we're like together, and I'm gonna finish what I am teaching her, and she's gonna be free and liberated. So that's actually what happened. He stayed up there a little while, and he taught Mandarava some really cool things, and I think she became immortal too and went to heaven like they all do. Uh, and this lake, which appeared where they were burned, is now called Tso Pema. And Tso meaning a lake, and Pema means a lotus. And this guru's name was Padma Sabhava, which is means lotus born. Apparently, his story is that um, he did not he was not born into this world like ordinary people are born, because, well, people are born into, like, when the father and mother get together, a mother gives birth to a baby, or sometimes, like in case of Jesus or some other folks, uh, mother gives birth to a baby, but there is no daddy, because the daddy is like a Buddha or a spirit or God. Like the Holy Spirit enters a woman and she gives a birth to a baby. Or in some Eastern stories, a Buddha enters a baby, and I mean, a Buddha enters a woman and she gives birth to a baby. But he was not born from a woman, he just appeared on earth because this guy was like so pure. He was not even stained by the childbirth, by the suffering of childbirth. Um, so Lama Lina, she in the 70s uh, got to Tsopyama somehow, and where she met her guru, Wangdor Rinpoche. Rinpoche means like an accomplished teacher, somebody that really knows Dharma. Dharma is truth, essence, isness of things. And he got there earlier, like maybe by 20 years before she got there, so he was already a little older. I guess he was in his 40s, and I guess he was in his 40s, and she was in her early 20s. And he was one of the first Tibetans that came up there. Apparently, he came up to those mountains, and there was nothing there. People kind of stopped worshiping things. So he settled in a cave where the guru lived. And this is a really special cave. It got palm prints in cave, and it got footprints in the rock, because these people, they can, to them, when reality and dream cease to differentiate, so they can walk on water and leave handprints in rock or footprints, walk through walls, teleport from one place to another, like even go to heaven as they wish. It's like, oh, I want to go to this heaven, and oh, there they go in heaven. Oh, it's like, I want to go to hell. Oh, there they go to hell. Because it gets really, really big. I personally don't know if it's true or not. I have some faith in this because it does make sense from a physical point of view. And I'm not talking about Newtonian physics, I'm talking about quantum physics. In quantum physics, a lot of things are possible. For example, the existence of two atoms which are the same exist in different places. So it's like existence of the same atom in two different places is possible. It has been proven, which is one of the gifts that Buddha could gives you is that the ability to exist in several places at once. uh, in essence, we're a quantum, and every quantum is connected to every other quantum. So we're all connected and we're all one in a way. Yeah. So, Lama Lina is coming Saturday morning and she's gonna teach on Saturday afternoon too. And she's gonna teach Sunday morning and Sunday afternoon. And her teachings are free because, according to the tradition, Dharma, which is truth, isness, essence of things, does not cost anything. Best things in life are free, like they say, like love. So her teachings are free. But if you wish to give her a present, a donation, you can. She also carries with her a whole bunch of files with people that need help, because she lives up there in Sopema. She's like a head lama of the place, and it's a place where a lot of Tibetan refugees come and go, and there's always orphans, and there's always yogis living in caves, and all these people, they need a little substance, a little clothing or food to survive. It doesn't cost much because it's India after all, and it's relatively cheap. For a price of a pizza, you can feed a person and clothe a person for a month. So she is like an agency, except she's not an agency that helps people, because it's not her thing. Her thing is to give you, a person, or me, like give people an opportunity to help somebody in person. Which, what I like the most about this whole thing is that I don't trust all these agencies. All these agencies, they take my $10 a month and they keep themselves $9 because they need to operate and they need to travel around and go on vacation to Jamaica, and give $1 to the poor person, and usually they give you like the government cheese, and it's not that bad. Government cheese is not bad, but I'm a real person, and I like dealing with real people. And if somebody was to help me, I want them to help me with real money so I can go and get me some real food that I want. Well, hello. Stop by.
I'm your friend.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to come on the show.
Yes.
It's Gabe.
Aha.
Stop by for
Sit up here.
Stop by for chili.
Yeah.
Is that shot okay?
Ladies and gentlemen, we have Gabe entering the place. Okay, you can sit there if you want. You can sit here. Let me move over so you can be seen.
Oh my God! Talking about the Bhagavad Gita again.
We always. I just finished first chapter. There's how many?
How many?
18 chapters.
Yep.
It's a small book, but it's quite large. Hold up. Which microphone do you have? Number 3. Let me blast it up a little bit. So. Is a microphone check up?
1, 2, what is this? 5-foot assassin with the roughneck business.
Yeah, come a little closer.
I float like gravity. I've never had a cavity. Got more rhymes than the Warners have got family. Okay.
I like it. Now don't stop. Keep on going. Keep on
That's
going.
from I didn't write that. That's Tribe Called Quest.
Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah. So what have you learned from the Bhagavad Gita since the last time we spoke on Chili Chill and Friends, which was about a month ago?
It's always the same thing. I read 4 chapters, and the theme of it doesn't change.
Okay.
The theme of it is that Krishna is God.
Okay.
Krishna is inside all of us,
Mm-hmm.
and as long as we like things or dislike things, we don't really get Krishna.
As long as we like make preferences and sort of obsess about the material world, we'll never get closer to spirit.
Basically,
the spirit of Krishna.
Yeah, that's an English language.
It's a good. I mean, it's a good lesson though, because I gotta say that kind of gets to the point of some of the better. I mean, all the great books, all the great mystic books that have ever been written, basically get to that. It's just kind of hard to decipher between living in the real world and living in sort of this spirit world, because now that we have a culture that is so formed of distractions, it's so formed around what's interesting instead of what's important. What I find interesting about a book like this, written thousands of years ago, is here was written in a book where you literally could exist outside of the realm of the normal culture. If you wanted to devote yourself to spirit and devote yourself to the work of spirit, you could. It didn't matter. You could just drift away. You could leave society. You could leave the norms of culture and still live a good long life where people understood. You could beg. You could literally meditate in a cave, and you could beg for sustenance and pretty much starve, but survive on a bare minimum. Whereas today, devoting your life to a life of spirit, you still have to like own a car. You have to live within 4 walls and a roof. There's taxes. There's a lot of government, and we live in this sort of electronic computer age society. So, what can a book like this teach us, or where does it miss the point? Chili Chill, I guess.
I think that the more things change, the more they stay the same. And back in the days, people had the same problems.
It's
Maybe
true.
they didn't have cars. They had cards, and the cards would break, and you have to go to a blacksmith and fix the card, and the blacksmith
cart.
charged some
cards,
extra
yeah.
money, and you was like, oh, son of a gun,
Son of a cart maker. Son of a cart maker.
Card maker.
You put square wheels on my cart, you butthead.
Yeah. On purpose, so you could go up there and charge some.
Look at
money
these
to make
wheels!
the wheels
There's
more round.
there's something wrong with my wheels. Well, the cartsmith put square wheels on your cart. That Schindler. I knew that there was something wrong. Planned obsolescence thousands of years ago. Programmed obsolescence. So yeah, I think I agree with you completely that I think mankind struggles, that history repeats itself both every day, every minute, every second, and every 10 years or so. We kind of go in this circle.
Like our human body changes. I mean, changes every 7 years, I think. Our old cells die and new cells come,
Every
and
7 years.
They still
Yep.
the same cells.
Yep. I mean, the number 10 and the number 0 are powerful beginnings and ends of things. The beginnings of decades, the beginnings of new states of mind, the beginning of new eras and of generations. But I think the number 7 is a lot more potent and a lot more real, especially with the way the universe works and the way that our culture seems to work. But
7, huh?
But I think that in all reality,
What's so special about 7?
I don't know.
I mean, it's like I'm thinking like there's 7 notes, for example.
7 deadly
7
sins.
colors.
Yep.
Right?
7 colors, seven deadly sins, 7 beautiful things.
Yeah. What are they? I never heard of that.
7 beautiful things. It's something
Women.
It's
is one, right?
it's one of them. It's something I say to myself to remind myself. Sometimes when I wake up in the morning and I'm having a real shitty day, I just go, think of 7 things that are really good right now.
Oh.
And by the time I get to 3, I just am like, oh man, what the heck am I complaining about? Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt, but you should see about that, doing that download now, because someone's going to want to.
Oh, sure. Okay. I've got to depart from Chili Chillin', friends. Unfortunately. No, it's okay. I just wanted to say hi to Chili Chillin'. I most likely will come back.
All right. Good.
But if not, I'll talk to you after the show. I just wanted to stop by and say hello to my friend Chili Chill. This is his show. It's an awesome show.
Chill and friends. Gabe, what's your last name?
Van Handel.
Van Handel. Gabe has his own show where he critiques movies. When is your show coming up?
It comes up. It's on Fridays at 6.
Fridays at 6.
We got Mark Borchardt on this week. Gabe.
Really? Mark is coming up? Oh shit, now I have to make it. Awesome. Yeah, tune in this Friday for Gabe Van Handel. He's gonna interview Mark Borchardt, who is a local celebrity. He is one of the only local movie makers. I think actually he is the only filmmaker that's local that is internationally known. And I'm not talking about just known in the United States. I'm talking about international. All over the world, people know a movie by an unforgettable name, American movie. And he did not make it. He stars in it. It's a documentary in which Mark and a group of his friends, but it's mostly Mark, is going through turmoils and tribulations and joys and sadnesses and they're making a small film. It's making a short half-an-hour film. It's a horror film. It's called what is it called? Well, the movie is called American Movie. It's about Mark making a movie. It has unforgettable characters, and they're all very real, and nobody is really acting, because real life is better than fiction, as they say. What is the movie? I know I can tell you what the movie is about, but I'd rather you go and see it. Rented in the Blockbusters, rented on Netflix. Check it out. American Movie, and the movie that comes with it. Another movie that made it big, that came from Milwaukee, is Frankie Latina's Modus Operandi. You can get it at Netflix. I'm not sure if Blockbuster has it, but Netflix definitely does. It is 80 minutes of pure exploitation. If you love senseless violence and hot chicks, most of whom are half naked, holding guns, and get Modus Operandi. In English, it would be mode of operation, which is a Latin term for things that happen, how it happens. Mode of operation. It means exactly what it means. Like everything else, life is very simple, and when we try to put an extra spin on things and imagine things that are not there, we usually mess up and make a fool out of ourselves. I'm trying really hard not to use bad language. I personally, in my previous life, one of my previous lives, I was a sailor, and I used to drink rum and cuss and be like, I just talk in cuss words and express myself quite adequately. And sometimes when I get to drinking, I remember myself exactly as I am, and I'm a very I'm very outgoing and very boisterous and very large. I like to feel large and be big and just cuss when I get in that mood. But I don't drink anymore. Uh, but I still got the memories, so I can be like ha 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 and ha ha ha. I mean, I am chilly chill after all. So back to reality, back to life, back to reality, back to here and now. For those who don't like didgeridoo, I apologize, but ever since I heard the sound of this big tube that makes this wonderful sound that came from Australia, I've been mesmerized, and once I got under some kind of influence, and after seeing a really nice performance by Tuvan throat singers, I try to imitate them, and even though I'm not good, I do make a really nice sound that sounds like a didgeridoo. So sometimes when I go on open mic, I say I'm the human didgeridoo, and you know what? People like it. I like it too. It makes me feel high. It's really, really amazing feeling. I get really energized by going for a while. My voice changes a little bit. I get a little more high pitched. Like the pitch increases, and I feel energized. Uh, Also, I did a few practices where I go through this Tibetan things, with a lot of prayers and meditations and teachings, and yeah, my voice also changed. And, it's interesting who we are and uh, what we what comes out of us. Like the light and the eyes that comes out, the sound that comes out. Um, what else comes out? It's like our eyes speak, our they show things, they radiate our inner essence, and our voice radiates our inner essence too, I believe. Because when I did those Tibetan practices, uh, they dealt with purification, and boy oh boy, I really felt joyous and happy at the end, and it really came out in my sound. The sound that I was talking was different. It was different, and I'm going through some practices right now. So maybe in a year or two, I'll complete them, and I'll see if my voice will change. Cause I'd rather my sound change permanently. You know how things change at first. We speak like, we have a kid voice, and then we go through changes, and then our voice changes. So I believe in change. I believe in change. Then again, but I also believe that what's not there, what if we get something that's not that would not that if we get something that was not there before, we cannot lose it. Everything that's acquired is lost, except for that which is unacquired, that which is unborn, that which is uncreated. That thing can never be lost. So we come to a book called Bhagavad Gita. Krishna's counsel in time of war. There's a war going on. The war between ego, materialism, selfishness, jealousy, possessiveness, attachments, hatred, and that which is good. Just good. Basically good. Good, pure, holy. And this is the book about that. It's all a metaphor. But some people don't take it as a metaphor, because some of it is not. I mean, the teachings of Bhagavad Gita are eternal. They are transcendent. They're not Hindu or Christian or Jewish or is Muslim. Well, that's definitely not Muslim. But they're everybody's. They're just, the teachings are how things are. And you know what? Because this is still written by people and is interpreted by people, it is not the absolute. This is not the truth. The truth cannot be spoken. The Tao Te Ching #1 says the eternal Tao cannot be spoken in words, but well, we can give some characteristics. We can only like kind of point at it. So this is all about pointing out the Tao, the truth, the Dharma, the whatever you want to call it, the Christ. Except I really am disappointed that the people use the word Christ so arrogantly, because Christ has a meaning, like words have meanings. And if we call like a table, and we call table a chair, then everybody would get confused. Some people would say table and mean the table, and somebody would say table and mean the chair, and it would be total chaos. So that's what's going on with the word Christ, because Christ means Messiah, and Messiah is a person in Jewish mythology, in Jewish lore, that's supposed to come at the end of our era. And free the world from evil. But now we have like Christ consciousness, whatever that means. You know, like if you really think about it, technically, this person who is supposed to come in the end of era, Christians, Christians say already came. So we already had the end of time, according to them, but according to them also we did not, because Christ is coming again on a white horse, and he's gonna take 144,000 of people up to heaven, and everybody else is gonna go to hell. It's whatever it is. I am not a fan of religion. I am not a fan of dogma. And people who are, they scare me. I am not afraid of people. I'm afraid of delusion, confusion. I'm afraid of doubt. I'm afraid of hatred. I'm afraid of prejudices. I'm afraid of judgmentalism, fundamentalism. I'm afraid of ignorance. I'm afraid of negativity. Well, you know, not that I don't have it in me. Of course, we all have some sort of negative in us, but if I was not afraid of it, I would welcome it. I was like, oh, me no care, man. Me hate Jews, cause me good, that's good. I'd be like, but now I was like, oh, did I just had a negative reaction towards something that I was not supposed to, like a Jew walked by and I'd be like, oh, this ugly, stupid Jew. And I'd be like, whoa. I heard my thoughts and I'm like, wow, did I just think that? Well, no, man, that's not good. It's like, I'm afraid of this thought. I don't like it. Like, let's see, why do I think that? And I was like, oh, probably because I would look inside my mind. It's like, oh, when I was a kid, I read Mein Kampf, and it's like some stupid thought entered my mind and it stayed there. Or like my parents, that's how my parents taught me. And well, I don't really hate Jews, and I haven't really read Mein Kampf. I know some people that have. They said it's a poorly written book. You know, I guess Hitler wasn't that smart. No, he wasn't that good of a writer, but he was a great occultist, and he had some kind of a hypnotic power. I saw a special on TV about Hitler and his rise to power, and in it there were interviews with two Jews, and they said, well, we went down to see Hitler talk, and because we were curious, so who this Hitler person was, so we went to see him talk at the rally. And he was talking and talking, and we were just listening at first, but sooner or later we found ourselves chanting with the crowd, "Kill Jews! Hitler is great! Kill Jews!" And then we came to home and we were thinking to ourselves, and we could not understand why were we chanting that, because we didn't really want to kill ourselves. We love ourselves, but we were chanting with everybody, and we really felt the hatred too. So it's kind of interesting who we are and how accessible our minds are to other person's suggestions. So, you want a hypnotic suggestion? Be happy. Just be happy. You know how life is? It's okay. Life always been that way. Relax. Take a breath. Take a deep breath. Feel your breath and relax. Just enjoy. Just enjoy yourself breathing. Enjoy today. Enjoy right now. Enjoy. You're bored? Enjoy your boredom. You don't need anything. Everything you need, you got right here. Breathe in. Breathe out. Stretch. Stretch. Feel good to stretch, right? Yeah, I love stretching. Dog stretch, cat stretch, birds, they stretch too. As humans, but don't stretch enough. Stretch some more. The more you stretch, the more open you feel. As we open our limbs and joints, we let all kinds of energies flow through us more freely, and it feels good. It's good to stretch, it's good to breathe, it's good to just be. Think about being is better than being 6 feet deep, you know? So, if you are breathing, enjoy it. Enjoy life. Life is definitely beats death. So, I've read 4 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, and now I'm gonna read the 5th chapter. In the first chapter, we have Arjuna, who's like a prince battling his cousins, and he doesn't want to go to war because he doesn't want to cause all the death. He's a nice guy. And his best friend Krishna, who's like a personality of God, emanation of supreme, of everything that is and isn't, he's telling them, you know what, Arjuna, you gotta go fight because that is your duty. It's, if you don't fight, you might get heaven, but you will lose the respect of man, and you would lose the good fight. But if you fight, you'll still get heaven, and you'll get the respect of man, and you'll get self-respect, and you'll do a good deed. So you gotta do your duty as a good person and fight. And then he says that it's okay to really go and take lives because you're not really taking lives as lives that we live are not really ours. The soul of a person is embodied in a body for just the time being, and after the body dies, the soul moves on and on and on and on. And then Krishna talks about this soul and how to get to the understanding of it, because through soul, beings can supposedly understand God, who is Krishna, according to Krishna. But then again, Krishna has many names, so Krishna is just a name, but we can call him God or Allah, and it'll still be Krishna. Or Buddha, I think. Yeah. You know? So then he talks about to get to this thing is that we gotta let go of our attachments to negative, like detachment from negative and attachment to positive, and abstain from food, because yeah. So then this way we can go beyond our ego, because beyond ourselves, and get into the something more ultimate. And then in the first chapter, he says that he is Krishna and he's been there before anything was there, and he's gonna be there after, because he is unborn, uncreated. And he's the one who taught the sun to shine and man to breathe. And so when he talks, says that when a person is not attached and is free, the person will just act just in act for the glory of God, but not as God, which is like a personal God, but just do the duty. Act because you gotta act. You gotta do what you gotta do. Then the person gets to master oneself, and with the mastery of oneself, the person gets the divine knowledge. And this divine knowledge frees one from every sin and every negative or positive karma, and person becomes supreme and enlightened and one with Krishna. And because Krishna is in every particle, person becomes one with all. Like then Esther came to the hot dog stand and he said, make me one with everything. So we come to the fifth teaching called renunciation of action. Because the third teaching was about action, It's about how to act, that you should act in service to Krishna, or just make every or endow with you, like doing the not doing. It's like you don't do things for the cause, for the reason. You're not attached to the result. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. You gotta do what you gotta do just because this is what you gotta do. And you don't actually even do it. You just let it be. Just be. Without attachment to the result. It's like doing the non-doing. Wu wei. Or like, no. Like, wei wu wei. Yeah. Wei wu wei. Because there's a yin and there's a yang and there's a wu wei. So you gotta wei wu wei. Fifth teaching, renunciation of action. So there's action. It's like I do this, I do that, and then there is a renunciation of it, as in, I'm hungry. Oh, hi. We have a possible guest. Would you like to come and sit and talk with us?
About what?
Anything. My show is about art and life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That would be fine. I need to drop something off first.
All right, great. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about this renunciation of action, and then we're gonna have a person stop by and say a few words. I don't know this lady yet, but we like to mingle with good people, and I don't know any bad people. Do you? Even Hitler loved his puppy. So there's goodness in all of us. There is goodness in all of us. So this action, like, oh, I'm hungry, I want to go eat. And then there is the renunciation of, which is like, oh, I'm hungry, I choose not to eat because I renounce my selfish ego. My ego wants, my ego needs, my ego doesn't like, I renounce this. I'm gonna just sit here and not do nothing. Arjuna says this. Arjuna, Krishna, you praised renunciation of actions and then discipline. Tell me with certainty, which is the better of these two? So Krishna says, so Arjuna says, that Krishna is saying, oh, when you renounce action, that's wonderful. And then you say, when you discipline yourself, and to discipline, you need to action. Like martial arts is a discipline, meditation is discipline, learning to build houses is discipline. It's like discipline is usually involves action. So Arjuna is a little confused here. He says, like, Krishna, you'll say this is good and that is good, but I don't know which is good. Tell me which is better of these two. And Lord Krishna answers, renunciation and discipline in action both effect good beyond measure. But of the two, discipline in action surpasses renunciation of action. The man of eternal renunciation is one who neither hates nor desires. Beyond dualities, he is freed from bondage. Simpletons separate philosophy and discipline, but the learned do not. Applying one correctly, a man finds the fruit of both. Men of discipline reach the same place that philosophers attain. He really sees who sees philosophy and discipline to be one. So Krishna says that discipline in action is better than renunciation of action. So he means that it's better to know how to do things and keep up with your knowledge than to just renounce, like not doing, just stay away from bad, stay away from good, just stay away and be a quiet mouse and just keep in a nice cozy place where nothing is bothered. You don't bother me, I don't bother you. He says it's good. He says it's not wrong. Nothing wrong with that. It's just doing things and being good at what you do and getting better is better than not doing. Then he goes into his own philosophy and changes it and says that See, there's renunciation and there's eternal renunciation. So it's like always renunciation, like always not doing. And what that means is that you don't get attached to things that are good, and you don't get uh, de- detached from things that are not. You know, you don't hate, you don't desire. It doesn't. There's no more duality. There's no this and that. It's all is just is, and this way, you get free from bondage or from what keeps you not happy. From gives you bonded to some kind of a thing that doesn't let you be free. And simple folk, they think that thinking about things, you know, like sitting there, contemplating, and doing things and working are two different things. But a wise man sees that because both of these end up in the same place, they get the same fruit, there is no difference between philosophy and discipline. Renunciation is difficult to attain without discipline. A sage armed with discipline soon reaches the infinite spirit. Armed with discipline, he purifies and subdues the self, masters his senses, unites himself with the self of all creatures. Even when he acts, he is not defiled. So Krishna here says that when you want to, you know, renounce the world, renounce good, renounce bad, when you want this eternal renunciation, you know, you can just want to do it, and you can get there, but it's difficult because you need discipline. You need determination. You need self-control. You need to know yourself. You need to get yourself under your own will and keep your will to be adamantium, unbreakable. And when you have a really good will, soon enough you can reach that place of infinity, of purity, of transcendence. You can become one with Krishna. So when you have this discipline, you become your true self, and in your true self you can see everything else. You can see all creatures. You know life, you know Krishna, and no matter what you do no wrong.
Wait, do you have the key?
Seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, walking, sleeping, breathing, the disciplined man who knows reality should think, I do nothing at all. When talking, giving, taking, opening and closing his eyes, he keeps thinking. It is the senses that engage in sense objects. So here Krishna says that if you want to get, if you get this discipline, right? If you want to be a sage, you know, if you want to get there, if you want to get to a better place than where you're at, the place that Krishna talks about, Um, please come up here. Would you mind sitting next to me? Well, you can sit up there if it's too much for you. Yeah. All right, let me finish this, and then we'll get at you, because I already started it. So here Krishna says that when you're doing things, you just gotta think that it is not you who's doing it. It's just nature. It's just karma. It happens because it happens, and you're just a witness to it. So it's the same thing where you are seeing, smelling, feeling, tasting. You're not supposed to think that it is you who's doing it. It just happens because this is your senses, and senses do their job, and you're just a witness. And for now, I'm gonna take a little break from the Bhagavad Gita and introduce everybody to a new guest on Chili Chill and Friends. Please, could you tell us your name?
Liza Loon.
Liza. Hi.
Hi.
So, are you here to watch a movie? Did you come to the shop to rent a movie or return?
No, I'm working with dropping a file off in the computer of a show I did last Saturday.
Oh, so you're also our DJ up here at River West Radio.
Sorta, yeah.
Sort of. What do you mean sort of? It's like sometimes you feel like it, sometimes you don't.
Well, I put some. I grab audio from different places regarding just life and politics, and I make videos, and accompanied by inspirational audio, and then I do interviews with different people. I interview political figures and whatever strikes my fancy, pretty much. Interesting topics, from politics to antinatalism to, art, music, whatever.
Very nice.
Thanks.
Yeah, where could we see your work?
Well, it's all over the place, but most currently on River West Radio, and then the YouTube channel there. There's a couple files, and there's an interview that will be, well, it's on the Ustream, and it's an interview I did with Lee Camp, who's a political satirist, and he was here over the weekend for the event, and then made his way down to Occupy Chicago for the NATO.
Oh yeah. My friends are up there.
Yeah.
Celeste, and if you know who she is.
I think I'd probably have a better time recognizing people by face than names.
She's a short, cute Mexican girl. She doesn't really look Mexican, but she's short and cute. That's all I can say. Yeah, she's an artist. Local.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wish I could have made it there, but I had some prior engagements. It's a really wonderful thing that people are doing, and from what I know, there's only been 60 arrests.
I'm not sure how many. There's been a couple confrontations.
Yeah. And
it seems to me, to some extent, I don't know if it's that the protesters are unorganized or if they're just giving, they're running around and making the cops in Chicago run around too.
No, I've read about what happened, and this is what happened. At first, everything was nice.
Yeah.
And then this is a police version, of course. And then police told everybody to disperse. And those who did not choose to disperse, to go away, they had to be arrested. So because there is no thing as peaceful protest in America. Every protest nowadays is considered to be political statement, and political statement is terrorist. You know, if you're against the war, if you're against the war, you're a terrorist.
It seems that way in some circles. It, at least since 9/11, it's been things have changed, and when the president passed NDAA, that just heightened everything, because now, even if you're an American citizen, you can be regarded as a terrorist and be arrested without due cause or due process. And then President Bush took away habeas corpus. So technically, the government can actually arrest you and stick you in Gitmo if they want. However, that hasn't happened yet.
No, it will be.
The president said that he's got a signing statement saying he would never do that. However, he violated that pretty quick in Yemen when he bombed a couple American citizens without due process.
Did he?
Yeah.
Was that that guy who supposedly gave all the information to WikiLeaks?
No, this was, I would say, an Islamic leader. However, they made accusations that he was assisting Al Qaeda in a inspirational way, saying rah rah rah. So that's not really cause.
That's freedom of speech, isn't it?
It would be considered prior to be freedom of speech. However, now it's hard to tell what that is anymore. It depends on the situation. So the president violated his signing statement, which means nothing legally anyway. So, but what it does mean is that who's ever the president in the future, whether it's 4, 8, 12, whatever, the American people will no longer have due process of law. So that's not a good thing. That means you can be, we're going into communist China right now. The old Soviet Union.
Russia.
Yeah.
I'm from there. I love the country because of the absence of freedom of speech and propaganda and all that stuff. And now I'm seeing this happen to here.
Yeah, in the U.S. It definitely is happening, and so it's going to take probably either a revolution or a intelligent group of people will have to gather together in one place and stand their ground. That might even mean secession.
Well, in modern days, there have been what's called like an orange revolution, like the one was in Ukraine.
Yeah, the colors.
Yeah, where it was not a violent revolution,
Right.
It was just a peaceful revolution, and people just stopped. Or in Thailand, which...
The Jasmine, isn't it? The Jasmine Revolution?
I'm not sure. I know that a whole bunch of people, like mothers and, like ordinary people just came into the only international airport, and they stopped it.
Yeah.
And that was it. And the government, it's a more or less peaceful country, so they could not just go around and start killing people, killing women and children up there, and they could not pull them out. But knowing America and knowing American government, they wouldn't care if it's a pregnant woman or, neo-Nazi. They will beat you and hurt you and push you into a dog cell.
Yeah, it seems like that we're heading in that direction, most definitely. Part of it, I think, is because we are such a large landmass. I mean, we have a lot of places, a lot of space. There's a lot of space in between everything. And so that allows the forces that be to focus in on certain areas. So whereas other nations have a more difficult time because they are smaller, like in the UK. I mean, you can only go so far. But I think a big part of it, I think we could do it, but a part of it really, it's the people. It's you, it's me, it's everyone. It's we the people. And if we don't stand up, as Martin Luther King did in Alabama, and boycott, and make that difference, And we've done it in little ways. Most recently, it was Glenn Beck and Rush Limbaugh, where people just called the advertisers and said, I'm not going to buy your product, stop advertising on those shows. And they pulled out as sponsors. And that's not what corporations like to see, because their bottom line is always money. They don't care what you're promoting as long as you make them money. But we have to go beyond that much more. We have to look at the whole social structure, from our prison systems to the wars to the banks and corporations. And that's a big agenda. And I just don't see it happening in the U.S. Because I think people aren't suffering enough yet.
That's what I think too. People here they have it pretty good compared to most of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even the lowest, the poorest class, they live wealthy compared to Britain, for example.
Well, I don't know so much about that as I would say, in more third world nations. The Americans always have had at least a striving standard of living to the middle class, to make it to the middle class. And I shouldn't even say that always, at least in the past, after World War II, you had that developing middle class, which is what really created a nice balance. However, there's still that dark underbelly, where you have the CIA and U.S. troops going into places they don't belong, banana republics into Indochina. So, and now we're in the Middle East, and we're doing that for oil. Before we were fighting communism, now we're doing it for rich oil companies.
So you're saying that we're in the Middle East just so the price of oil can increase?
Well, it depends. It's a funny game that's going on. And part of it is a power struggle, but I think it's also with corporations and banks, the wealth is, how do I get the wealth? And so even though the Saudis are still producing, even though Iran is still producing, and Iraq is trying to produce oil, not to mention Canada and the northern part of the U.S., you have these speculators. And these uncertain times allow them to place bets. So they can, with their bets, they can shoot the price of oil up, over $100. Then there's, the speculation and fear that we're in, an oil shortage. We're running out of oil. Yet on the other side, they say, no, we have plenty of oil. The Saudis say we have lots and lots of oil. Right. So, there's a lot of these games being played. And it's really to get control. It's building an empire. But I think for the most part, the bankers and the corporations only see the bottom line, and that is how much money they can get. And I think they're psychopaths, and I think they're addicted to greed.
Yeah, after you have so much money, what can you do with it?
Yeah, after $100 million, what's left? I mean, what can you possibly do with billions and billions of dollars?
Oh, I could imagine. If I had $1 million, or if you had $1 million, what would you do? If you had $1 million,
$1 million. $100 million?
$100 million.
Well, that's even too much for me.
Why? What would you do?
Well,
just you alone. What would you do?
All alone? I probably end up giving a lot of it away.
Is there how? Why? How?
How? Well, let's see. That's a good question. Efforts to educate, I think, and to develop sustainable communities. I like that idea a lot, where people are allowed to grow what's natural for them to grow in their communities, to produce what's natural to produce in their communities, to get education. We have 7 billion people in the world. We've got to start looking at that, because that becomes a lot of fodder. And unless we start developing and looking at other sources of energy, we're in big trouble as far as our standard of living. So, and that means air and water.
From what I know, in the beginning, in the last century, Nikola Tesla,
Yeah.
yeah, he actually devised a way to get energy out of air.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. There's a lot of
Yeah,
people into Tesla, and perhaps it exists. It would be if you have $100 million, you could probably find out if it exists.
Right, right. That's
You
what
know,
I
you
would
could-
probably do. If I had $1 billion, I'd go into Tesla and they get me a
Yeah.
group of scientists.
And then somebody knocks on your door and tells you to shut up and don't tell anybody.
Well, I'd get my own private army like Monsanto did. Did you know Monsanto, they got Blackwater?
Oh, they did? They
Yeah,
bought
they, you know-
Blackwater?
Yeah, they bought them.
They did.
Yeah, the most evilest corporation bought the most evilest private army.
Yeah, it's
So
interesting.
It's like a match made in hell.
Yeah, that's very interesting. These mercenary groups. Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, my initial feeling is to pull out. Find a group of people, a lot of people, who have the same ideas that I do. They want clean air, clean water, good food. They
I
want.
think that would be everybody.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's everybody. You have to have the will behind you to develop a community like that. And my thought is what I call open source state. And that's where you have a large group of people, like minds, educated people, preferably, and that would open the door to a lot of people who have student loan debt. And you walk into a city and you filibuster the legislators, and you make your way into a state and you filibuster those folks and you move in. Well, that's where you go in and you stand your ground and you keep talking and talking and talking and talking and talking until you get their attention and you get legislation to go in your direction.
Oh, not in America.
Well, it's possible because there are at least over, if you could grab, there's like 1.5 million people, maybe 2, in student loan debt.
Mm-hmm.
If you have student loan debt, you've gone to university, so you're well educated to some extent. Not all, but some people drink that whole period. But nonetheless, you're relatively intelligent. And if 100,000 of those people walked into, say, a small state, New Hampshire, Vermont, Delaware, Rhode Island, and were able to co-opt it, to have, in other words, you move in, become a resident, and you vote a certain way. You promote a certain legislation. You work with each other so that you can support each other. Both financially and philosophically. And once you take that over, then you start passing laws that are good for people. So you pass universal health care, you pass, perhaps you get rid of usury, so for student loan debts, and you don't discriminate because somebody has a bad credit record because of student loans or medical bills. And that's a start. I think that's very attractive to a lot of people.
You thought about this has been my thought, is that a lot of times like socialist countries, communist countries, they had really good ideals when they made the revolutions, when they changed the government to be more for people, I guess, than more controlled by monarchs or whatever it was. But then the people in power, they got corrupted.
They got corrupted too, like in China. It was very, yeah. You have to. Well, you have to have principles, and the one thing I guess I like about libertarians is, for the most part, they tend to lean towards having principles. The thing about quite a number of atheists is their secular humanism, and seeing that people need to be treated as human beings, as valued, as opposed to just winner take all. So
are you saying like some some religious folks that don't see humans as humans?
Oh, I think so. I think you'd probably attract a lot of religious people. I don't think you would necessarily attract, say, Southern Baptists
Why not?
or evangelicals. Well, because a lot of them are anti-intellectual.
So you're saying religious folks are against intelligence?
Some, I think a good number of evangelicals are. Not all. You know, I wouldn't consider Buddhists to be anti-intellectual. I don't think most Catholics are anti-intellectual. I don't think most Protestants are anti-intellectual. But the evangelicals, the born-agains,
you know,
they don't like
I'm
books.
more of a Buddhist person, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not born in a religious environment. So for me to understand religion and religious thinking, it's really, really hard.
Yeah, it is kind of an indoctrination. You know, I know atheists call it magical thinking and the spaghetti god, etc., or the blue spaghetti in the sky or something. I don't remember.
Spaghetti in the sky.
This blue spaghetti monster. I don't know.
He is a monster, isn't he?
Well, you know, if you follow the Bible, if you follow the first 5 books of Moses, you're going to find a very vengeful and angry God. And so, if you believe that, you know, if you don't believe in women's rights or rights for homosexuals, or, you know, in some parts the differences between blacks and whites, you know, there's a prejudice, there's a bias. You're just not going to pick up a book, you know, written by Charles Darwin. You're not going to pick up something by Carl Sagan. You're not going to pick up, you know, maybe even a book by Newton. if your book is the only book is the Bible, then you're pretty much an anti-intellectual. And, you know, if you think about words, you know, as they exist prior to Gutenberg.
Who's Gutenberg?
Gutenberg was he was the first printer.
Oh, okay.
So he printed, well, he wasn't the first printer, the Chinese were, but he printed. Yeah, he printed, and the reason that the Chinese didn't, you know, develop a printing press the way that Gutenberg did was because the Chinese characters are so vast, whereas the English language and letters are fixed. You know, there's only 26, you know, and then you might have a few little strange ones in there. And so when he printed the Bible, there were a lot of people who believed that the words themselves were demons. You know, the letters on there were demons, so they were afraid of words. So you have people who, you know,
It's like news. I'm trying to understand this kind of a thinking.
medieval, very medieval thinking.
I mean, so the Bible had to be memorized, and if it's not,
Yeah, it was an oral tradition, and really the only ones who were reading it or learned how to read were monks, because they had to copy. They had to make copies of all the things that were said and written. And it would be at a time where you would be in your little cell in the castle or in the monastery and very cold, and you would be writing this and you'd make one mistake and you'd have to start all over again. So, or you could be whipped, you know. So it was quite a procedure.
If you want to be whipped, you better be.
Yeah, you better be really good. And so that's why if you look at a lot of the old medieval scripts, they're quite gorgeous. They're just beautiful. But yes, it was really just the monks who were well read, and then it became more so for kings and other clergy, and then as the secular upper classes started to develop, the Medicis, you know, they learned to read. But there were a lot of people who really believed that those characters, you know, those letters were demons, and they were used to an oral tradition. That's what you went when you went from village to village to village, spreading the news by singing your song. And you know, that was a profession. And later on, which turned in, you know, after newspapers came about, or prior to newspapers perhaps, was the town crier. You know, and he would yell the news, what the king has proclaimed. And then as the printing press took off, and more presses were developed and built. Let's just say that there wouldn't have been Martin Luther and the nailing of his document on the door of the Catholic Church had it not been for Gutenberg's printing press. So the Reformation came directly from that act, and that broke up the Catholic Church and its power.
Reformation was basically saying that the church interpreted the Bible wrong.
Well, he was saying a lot of things. One was that you don't need a pope, you don't need a bishop, you don't need a cardinal or a priest to tell you or to get to God. You go through God through the word of the Bible, and that's all you need. And that basically started the Reformation and a revolution in Europe, which eventually, started the Renaissance. So, there's a huge history of how we got from here to there, and the whole notion of words. Some people believe that when you look at a book and you read it and you're reading the words, you disconnect, from the ideas and thoughts that were originally there. That the human ear is much better than just the intellectual pursuit of reading.
I got this book at home. It's called Evelyn Wood's 7-Day Reading Method. Yeah, and it says that when you speed read, you don't even think about what you read. You just let the information go into your mind directly, straight into subconsciousness, and supposedly you can understand things better that way.
I don't know.
Interesting, huh?
It is interesting. I remember when that was a big fad in the 70s when that came about, and I knew a girl who actually signed up for that program. I don't know what the results were. I imagine they weren't that good because it's not around anymore.
Well, it still is.
I just don't.
Sure.
They're not using it in schools or colleges.
They use it in school. You know what, though? In my personal opinion, right now, I don't know why. I really don't know why, but the agenda is like outward. The government's agenda is to, no child left behind, to keep the education level up. But looking at the way things really work and are, it's like the mental level of people is going lower and lower and lower. So I'm thinking some kind of an underlying agenda is to take away people from being intellectual, from thinking about what's going on, to make them into sort of a zombified drones.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, and I think you can put a problem or in front of a student today, and they won't know what to do unless they're told. And that
people don't know how to think for themselves.
Yeah. So that whole process of thinking, and that's why you see a lot of parents are attracted to Waldorf education, to a certain extent Montessori, and to other alternative educations. Some of them want to go back to the old liberal arts, where actually you do discuss philosophy. This technocratic, neo-technocratic approach, which seems to have made Bill Gates quite rich, dulls the mind, I think, and they don't want people to think. They want people to solve problems like a computer. They don't want them to wonder and be curious. They just want them to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And that's what machines do. And other people believe that there's fluoride in the water, and that makes people passive, so they won't question and they won't say much. It's really hard to say. The only way you could actually kind of test that is to allow different kinds of societies to develop under the umbrella of the United States. And I would like to see that. I would like to see states be able to have that opportunity like you would have in education. You have certain schools that are geared towards technology, certain schools that are geared towards the arts, certain schools that are geared towards business, and other ones, that deal with skills, So if that's the case, then why can't we have different philosophies in states, whether it's cities or municipalities, or if it's complete states themselves, why not? And
Privatization of education would enable the owners of school get a lot of money and use it for their own personal gain.
but these schools they're not owned by private corporations. They're chartered out by the public school system. So for instance, here in River West, you have Fratney, which is a bilingual school, and you have across the river there at Riverside, it's a university school. You have the IB schools like Reagan and Rufus King. You have business schools. You have all kinds of schools that have this focus. In other words, in their between the reading and writing and arithmetic, their focus is on something that is a specialty. So for the School of the Arts, the kids learn English, they learn math, they get all that, but
They
then
cut out the budget. There's no more arts in the School of the Arts.
well, but there is, and so then your focus is on dance or orchestra or drum corps or acting or drama rather, or the environmental school. So instead of having, say, arts and music, they might have something that gears more towards environmental. Now, I don't know how successful that is because every student's different, every child's different. The parents make that decision. But it's not owned by any private corporation. Now, you have these other schools, the Catholic schools, other private schools that are part of the choice program. And that is a little different. That is where the state or the city will give money to a certain school, $2,500 per child, and the parents will make up the difference if they're able to. And those have been successful for a number of students and a number of schools. Some people are against it going to the Catholic schools because it's a religion and they're just going to build more churches. But other schools have done very, very well.
I've known a few teachers who work for those schools, and what they say is a lot of them are owned by what the coin phrase is poverty pimp.
Poverty pimps.
Poverty pimps.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that there are a few schools out there that, were charters or were part of the choice program that were a scam. Somebody had an idea. Perhaps it started out with good intentions and, went the wrong way. And that usually catches up and they end up closing those schools. But, it's really, the focus, though, too, is on certain income. So you can't just send your child to one of these choice or charter schools unless you're below a certain income. And that gives those students opportunities that they would not get in their local school. Now, is it a good idea? I'm sure a lot of public school teachers who are very, very strongly for public education may say, well, it's draining our system. But, I think we got a lot of money, and it's just, going in the wrong hands. So I think a student or a child can go to any school they want, and that we could fund all education if we know how to manage our money better. And there's no reason for anyone, as I said before, come full circle, to make more than $100 million a year. What would you do? What do you do other than control their people? That's the only thing you can do with that money, because it stays, it does nothing, it just sits. And money needs to be liquid, because when money is liquid, it's moving around. That means there's opportunities for people to get it and create more things. And these old families, the inheritance, there should be no inheritance. You can leave a nice little cushion, for your son or daughter, but there's no reason to have this old Rockefeller money or old J.P. Morgan money and pass it to your kids just for the fact that they were, a right sperm and egg. That seems to me to be very immoral. You don't need more. You don't need billions and billions of dollars just because you were born the Prince of Wales. It seems to me to be very anti-human.
I don't know about that. It's like as long as people have been alive, people had possessions, and then people died, and they needed someone to leave their possessions, and they usually left it to their kids.
Well, we're not talking about old photographs or grandma's mink stole. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars. I mean, we're talking about money
like kingdoms, for example. So
Pardon?
For forever, there's been kings. I mean, I'm not a supporter of democracy.
Okay.
I don't think democracy works.
Well, H.L. Mencken didn't think so either.
I think and I'm just looking at the way things are in the United States, which is democracy, or anywhere else.
Well, we're a republic, actually. We're a republic. We're not a democracy.
Is there a democracy in the world?
Well,
I mean, the original
Czechoslovakia was for a little while. Germany was for a little while, but most countries are republics.
Yeah.
So
republics doesn't work because everybody's corrupt, and democracy was the real democracy was when it originated in Greece.
Right.
And it was too much.
H.L. Mencken said that democracy is mob rule. So,
it is mob rule.
But a republic is not mob rule. A republic is representative government. So that's where you pick a representative and you're supposed to come out in some kind of consensus. However, that's changed over the past couple decades, especially since Ronald Reagan, where you have money that's influencing and actually positioning and buying politicians to vote whatever way a corporation wants them to do. And that.
You're saying before that there was no money.
I think there was. I think there was a moral compass though prior to that, and that we were going through that. The civil rights change that I think the height of American, and perhaps just the height of democracy, the height of where America was going to get is maybe 1968 when we went to the moon. We were all united in that sense, and we were coming.
I don't believe we went to the moon.
Well, okay. So,
I'm one of those.
But even though underneath all that, there was still, the dark underbelly of what we were doing in Nicaragua and all these other places.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, you did have a united mind, a group of people who said, "This is American," and but it's too soon for that American mindset. I think we're going to lose it, like the Soviet Union did, and we may fall apart, and then sometime maybe in a couple hundred years we'll come back together. But right now it seems to be the Germans that are doing very well.
Really, Germans, huh?
Well, their economy is only second to China, yet they only have 90 million people. So, and Germans are known for being savers. Only 2% of their population has credit cards. They're not spenders. They like to travel, but they also take care of each other. So everything's union. Even their Walmart, when it was there, was union, which is interesting. Everyone has health care. Everyone gets an education. Yet and their products are quite well made.
They're one of the best ones.
Yeah, they're one of the best.
Get the German.
Yeah, and then when you're unemployed, if you lose your job, you get retrained. So, that is more of a human approach.
Yeah, they're socialist.
Yeah, they are. They're more of a socialist country. However, their banks are getting kind of caught up in this huge economic mess in the world.
And they want to be like everybody else.
Well, the derivatives. And the surprising thing, too, they had the naked short selling. Angela Merkel put a stop to that. So I thought that was very bold.
What happened there? I don't know.
Well, it's like really bad gambling. Your naked short selling is like, it's like saying I'm taking insurance out on your house, and if your house burns down, I get paid. So it's really deceptive. It's a form of gambling, is what it is, and that's really what's putting the United States in a bad way, is this
But
gambling.
somebody has to be winning out of this, and
Out of
I
what?
can't believe it's just Chinese.
Oh, no. The banks are winning. International bankers are winning out of this.
But they just got $10 trillion from the United States.
Yes, and what they did is they took the money, they kept it, they paid themselves, and then what they've been doing since Obama, anyways, they've been taking all this toxic waste, these bad loans that they made, and they've been giving it to the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve is putting it on their books and giving them cash. So they're giving us a lot of garbage for nothing. And so we're going to have to pay those debts back, even though we have no stake. If you never bought anything, you've just been renting, you and your children are going to have to pay that debt that the banks incurred. In the meantime, they're solvent. Well,
Well, would it
what
be
they're doing, they're
possible for
actually
the-
gambling, but...
Would that be possible for the Federal Reserve Bank to declare bankruptcy,
Well,
abolish
that's-
itself, and start a new American bank?
Let's put it this way. Ron Paul wrote a bill to audit the Fed. So he wants us to see what's on the Federal Reserve's books. You can't. We have no right as people to audit the Fed. So he got as far, and he actually got Barney Frank with him. He got Senator Sanders with him, and they were able to audit the TARP. And that's what the TARP, the bailout that Bush did in 2008.
Right.
And we found out that all that money that we gave them went to all these banks, international banks as well, the Bank of Scotland, the Bank
Yeah.
Swiss, German banks. Everybody got it, and that's why a lot of it didn't come back into ours. And the banks here, the 5 big banks here, just held it. And they gambled it on derivatives and other things.
Yeah.
And then they just keep throwing this garbage onto the Fed's books, which is what we have to pay. That's the money that now we're responsible for. So the only thing you could possibly do is what would be in the old biblical terms is throw a jubilee. And that's clear all the books, forgive all debt, end usury. So that's what they did in the Old Testament. Is the Hebrews when or in a lot of tribes, when they had too much debt at the end of the year, the Lord or the king or the leader would forgive it all and everybody start over again.
That's so nice.
Yeah, and that's really, we've done that more so in our history of humanity than this this sort of banking system that came out of Italy during the Renaissance. This form of usury where you loan somebody money and you charge them interest. That was a sin against the church. It's a sin in Muslim countries. It's a sin in almost every religion, yet they're able to do it, and that needs to
That's why
stop.
a lot of people blame Jews for it.
Well,
I
the
think
Jews get blamed for it because when the Jews were in Europe, they weren't allowed to own any land.
Right.
So
had
they
to
were
go-
only given-
This was the only way for them to make money.
Right, was to make loans.
Yeah, to
They
make
could
loans.
loan money. Yeah.
Right.
So they got very good at banking, and so a lot of
But
people
now,
are.
like what happened back then, it gets blamed by.
And then eventually, right? That's what Hitler did. He blamed the international bankers for the war, for World War I, and for the tragedy of the Great Depression. And when you have something like that, you need to point a finger at someone. Somebody wants to blame everybody but themselves. It was easy to blame the Jews. And the Catholic Church was always, the Catholic Church said that they killed Christ, and so that was that for years and years and years. So it's kind of hard to, get over that. It's also hard for people not to coalesce together and protect themselves. And so it's kind of you got to get to a point where you say, everybody's equal, everybody's even, and if you have a good idea, we're going to support that. If you have a bad or evil idea, we're not going to support that. And that comes down once again, to people. It's the numbers. We, as a group, as a people, we outnumber the Koch brothers. We can get rid of them if we want. It's
Can
that
we
easy.
really?
Oh, sure. You just have.
I don't see
You have to organize. You have to be organized. And that's where the idea of an open source state comes in. And the open source state is where you get like minds that come together in great numbers and they develop. Like I say, the libertarians have it kind of down. They have this, I can't remember what it's called, but it's sort of like rules of the road. I'm going to be an honorable. My word is, my word is good, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be honest with you when it comes to business. I'm not going to look into your life. I'm not going to bother you, and you're not going to bother me, and you're looking in my life. Whatever we do in our personal life is fine. But I'm not going to harm you, and you're not going to harm me. And that's the agreement. And when I'm going to do a job for you, I'm going to do it and finish it. And if I'm unable to, I'm going to try and reconcile that situation. So that's the libertarian kind of ideal. And then if somebody goes into business and it fails, then you fail. Nobody comes and bails you out.
Oh, yeah, that only makes sense.
Oh, it does. If you're a bank, we should have let the banks fail, but we couldn't because we couldn't see what was on the books because we weren't allowed to look at the Federal Reserve books. And this is why Ron Paul is so popular, is because he's wanted to audit the Fed for decades.
He won Minnesota,
He did, and Maine, and Nevada.
And Nevada, really?
Yeah.
3 states already?
Yeah. So they did the counts, and but he won't get the press because they hate him on Wall Street because he believes in if you don't make it, you fail.
Yeah.
And they don't like that. They don't like losing that kind of control. That's a neoliberal kind of thing,
Well, he's also against Medicare and Medicaid.
Well, and I can understand his point of view, but he doesn't want to end it all tomorrow. He wants us to wean off of it because if you look before those programs came about, not Social Security so much, but programs like Medicaid and Medicare, prices to go to the doctor. I remember when I was 5, I got very ill, and it was $5 for the doctor to come to our house.
Yeah, the doctor would come to the house.
He came to our house, and
Right.
he took my temperature and he looked at me. I didn't have to get up.
The doctors were better too.
I think, technology's changed and drugs have changed, and I think a lot of that is just the profit margin in medicine is why medicine is so high because it's if healthcare was made either competitive or if it was non-profit making. In other words, any money that you made, you would put back into research and discovery, right? For instance, there's a lot of drugs that are developed at the universities. That's taxpayer dollars.
Yeah.
So what the drug companies were able to lobby was they lobbied Congress to say that anything that came out of the universities, one of the drug companies would be able to get that research and sell it and have a monopoly on it. Mm-hmm. So you had all the work done by Americans, students, and taxpayers. And they handed all that information to profitable big drug companies, and they marketed it and distributed it and charged people through the nose for it. And so that's inherently wrong. Now, the reason medicine, healthcare is so high is because of the profit margin. Get rid of the profit margin, and you'll see medicine drop. And because nobody's out to fund medical treatment unless there's a profit in it. However, if the profit is that you live longer and you support these institutions that are developing it, like for instance in France, they decide this is what we're going to pay. And and in India, for instance, if this is what we want to pay for your drug, and if you don't charge us what we can afford, and you want to charge us more, we'll take your drug, we'll take it apart, and we'll make it ourselves. Mm-hmm. You see, so and the pharmaceutical companies don't like that, especially the stockholders. So you have to get rid of the profit in that, and unless it's something that's not vital. So I think in that sense, Ron Paul has the right idea that if you stop subsidizing these companies and you give the credit to the universities rather than the drug companies, you're gonna develop more, and the prices are gonna drop immensely. And that's a problem because when you have a drug that's needed, whether it's penicillin or any kind of antibiotic, if you're invested in it, you want that price to be up there so you get that dividend at the end of the month. So that's one approach. The whole Social Security thing, he doesn't think that, I know listening to his platform, he doesn't think that this is something that we can get rid of right away. but we need to re-examine it. There's some other things that I guess there are controversial that he wants to get rid of, but you see his approach is a little bit different, where he says let the market do it, whereas Ralph Nader's approach is we're funding this, so why can't we just reap what we sow? Since the taxpayers are paying for this, if it's a good thing for us, I'm not talking like a pet rock. Let anybody who wants to fund that. But if it's something that's going to, make living and raise the quality of living, then the people should benefit from that. And
I'm for public education, like with universities, public universities, public medicine, everything. I'm for basically. Socialism, socialist communism, even.
Well, Ron Paul contends that if you get...
I'm for theocracy, actually.
Yeah.
I'm for democratic theocracy.
Democratic theocracy.
There's one in Bhutan.
Is there?
Bhutan,
interesting.
People, they have a kingdom, and they have a king, and the king himself, he says, well, you know what? I feel kind of bad being like a monarch, with people not having any rights, so he rewrote the constitution and says, if you guys don't like the way I rule, you can take me off.
Isn't that the place that they found a lot of gold recently?
Bhutan?
Yeah, I think that was. And that they're trying to start a war there.
Yeah, it was Chinese problem. The Chinese won Bhutan.
Yeah.
China wants to conquer
There's a lot of gold. They found a lot of gold, and my understanding was the leader wanted to share that. It was something that was very similar in the 1950s in Guatemala. We had a very wealthy landowner. His son, took over the country, and he said, well, we've got all this. I want to start giving land to the people.
Right.
And the big fruit corporations didn't like that.
Right.
Chiquita came out of that, international fruit. And that's what formed the banana republics, and they killed him. The CIA had him murdered.
Oh, my.
It was the same thing in Iran with Mossadegh in 1953. So Mossadegh was the socialist. He said that Iran's oil should be shared by all. And so they trumped up charges against him, and then they put the Shah in there, who was brutal. So we got a lot of sins here that we've done for corporations, and we have to pull the money out from them. But I don't see the will in this country to do that. I don't see the people having the enough thinking capability to reason it all out. And that's why I think that you have to find a demographic that can come together like minds and just, develop the right thing. And that's how I see those who are in student loan debt are the perfect demographic. They're stuck the rest of their life in debt, and they hate it. And they're educated, intelligent, and they can come together and they can work towards changing laws that will help people. So that's my contention. And you got a mouthful so I was going to sit here for like 15 minutes. I've taken over your whole show.
This is my show. My show is about life and people. And I read this book, Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
I got through 4.5 chapters so far.
That's wonderful. I'm glad somebody's reading that here.
Well, it's heavy duty reading.
It is. It is.
But it's quite
you could have like a little
mind expanding
book group, and just take a section at a time and discuss it. It would be very nice. You'd put that invitation out there.
Possibly, but well, there's a lot of time slots still available.
Yeah, but I mean, as a discussion, what do people think about that? The stories and its meaning.
I've had people, a few people talk about what we read, but it hasn't been bad. Would you like to do a verse with me?
Sure, I'll do one, and then I have to go. I appreciate your time and everything, and for inviting me. Sure, I didn't think I was going to rant for the last half hour, but
right now I'm doing the 5th chapter, and it's called Renunciation of Action, and I'm somewhere in the middle of it. So I'll just start where I left off, yeah?
I don't have my glasses, which is not
It's all right. I'll just read out loud. And,
Okay.
you can say what you think about it.
Okay.
Then I can say something.
Good.
You can say something. A man who relinquishes attachment and dedicates actions to the infinite spirit is not stained by evil, like a lotus leaf unstained by water. Relinquishing attachment, men of discipline perform action with body, mind, understanding, and senses for the purification of the self. Should I read it again?
Read it again.
Okay. A man who relinquishes attachment and dedicates actions to the infinite spirit is not stained by evil, like a lotus leaf unstained by water. Relinquishing attachment, men of discipline perform action with body, mind, understanding, and senses for the purification of the self.
Depends on which.
It sounds to me like he's addressing the higher self. And that you have to engage not only the thinking and the feeling, but the will. And it has to be done with the right purpose.
Right purpose.
The right purpose, yeah. And if it's done with the right purpose, then it can't be wrong.
Very nice. Yeah, I can dig that.
So now you read. What did you read?
I read up here. Man relinquishes. It's like the last verse. That's where we have, or these two words.
Okay, so you read. Oh, a man, and then did you go here? And then here?
No.
Okay, I'll read that last one. Okay.
Okay.
Relinquishing the fruit of action, the disciplined man attains perfect peace. The undisciplined man is in bondage, attached to the fruit of his desires.
So let's take this and compare it to what's going on in the world, like with capitalists and all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, letting go, yeah, it's hard for people to do, to let go of your stuff.
That's what we were talking about with people passing away and leaving stuff to their children.
Yeah, it is kind of the form of the lower ego. You know, it keeps one safe. You get a sense of control when you have stuff, when you have your sort of boundaries. You know, your apartment, your 90-degree angles, and it might be something that's base instinct, you know, this fear factor, that if you don't have this stuff around you, these things, that, you know, you could be injured. Whereas I think what he's talking about is if you have the right intentions, you'll be guarded, you'll be safe. And I imagine that moves somehow into karma and destiny at that point, which you can't really explain because you're not privy to that information. At least not in this realm, right? Unless maybe you're a very disciplined individual, as he says.
To me, karma is really basic and easy. What you roll is what you sow is what you reap. So wherever we're at right now, we put ourselves here, and judging by that, we can easily make a prognosis of what's gonna happen in the future to us, you know.
Well, that's what people say. You know, it's sort of hard, but I like the idea of being active in the world. You know, engaging the will in purposeful work. And if people do that, then I think we're going to achieve a lot more intellectually and community, you know, so the areas of thinking and in the heart. If people's will, if their gestures are, but it's kind of hard when you see everything that's on television and, you know, what's filling the minds of a lot of people with games.
I don't watch television no more.
I'm hearing more and more people are stopping, and I think again,
I don't like the violence.
knowledge is power. You know, as Sir Francis
But I don't
Bacon
like
said.
what I don't get any knowledge until all I see is violence,
No,
and
no,
more
no.
violence, and shows that supposedly against violence
Yeah.
are about rape and violence.
So,
It's like, oh no, thank
well,
you.
there's a new. I think when I think of Bacon's idea of knowledge is power, it takes me back to to ISIS, where the mysteries are now unveiled. So lift the veil, right? You lift the veil of ISIS, and you see the mysteries, and that's the knowledge. That kind of knowledge. I don't mean like let's get a dictionary and figure out what or how much you know about a rap star or American Idol. To me, that's not knowledge. That to me, that's a waste of time. That's anti-knowledge.
I like American Idol, so art and music. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. So.
Well, if you find something out of that, then that's a good thing, I suppose. Ooh. I have to run, but
Before I go, let me invite you to a few things
okay.
which are full of knowledge. Number one is tomorrow, Wednesday, at the Theosophical Society of Milwaukee. They're gonna have a bunch of people who are doing research on enlightenment.
Interesting. Where is this
Yeah.
at?
It's by Oakland and Locust.
Is this you said the Theosophical Society?
Yeah.
The Blavatsky group.
Blavatsky
Oh, yeah.
group. Yeah. They meet every Wednesday at 7.
Okay. Okay. And
And this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, an American woman who spent 40 years with Tibetans. Her name is Lama Lina, Lama and Lena. She's coming to Milwaukee, and she's going to be teaching at the Shambhala.
over
Center,
on Oakland and North.
Avenue,
Yeah, I know where that's at.
Yeah. So you
Very
can
nice.
Google her name up if you're interested. It's free. Both things are free.
Okay.
And
I hope people who are listening will take you up on that.
hopefully. Yeah.
That's the
She's-
one nice thing about River West Radio is you can put it out there and people.
Right. Well, if they don't hear me today, I get about 20 listeners in the future.
You should put those links on the description to those places. To the Shambhala
I don't
worship.
have the links on
Oh.
right now. Maybe Exav gives me the password. He should. He said he'll.
Or if you could ask, them to put the
Yeah,
title
yeah.
and maybe one of the guys can do that. I don't know how that works, but
Yeah, I'll get the password. I can do it myself.
Okay.
Self owns me a password. I'm too lazy to go get it. If I have the password, then it gives me like a responsibility.
yes, that is a responsibility, isn't it? Yeah, it's like money, a lot of money. It's a big responsibility. Yeah.
Well, on this word, responsibility is the word for today.
It is.
Yeah, we'll put an end to this.
Okay.
So, everybody take it easy and be good to each other. Be excellent.